The war of words between President Trump and Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, meanwhile, escalated over the weekend. The president removing the United States from the G7 statement over Trudeau's post-meeting comments. I sat down exclusively with former Canadian Prime Minister Stephen Harper, who looked at the situation from both sides of the border.
Look, I tell people that, we try and understand. In Canada, we try and understand the American perspective. I can understand why President Trump, why the American people feel they need some better trade relationships. If they wanted to take on the relationship with China, even some aspects of the relationship with Mexico around autos, I'd be, the first person telling our government to be a partner in those things, because I think Canada shares those concerns. I don't understand the obsession with, trade relations with Canada. Not only is the trade deficit with Canada small, the United States runs a current account surplus with Canada. Canada is the biggest single purchaser of U.S. goods and services in the world. It's not China, it's not Mexico, it's not Britain, it's not Germany, it's Canada. So, it just seems to me this is the wrong target. And from what I understand of American public opinion, I don't think even Trump supporters think the Canadian trade relationship is a problem.
Could it be that it's so different from what we have with Mexico, and he can't get a deal between the three together, so maybe a bilateral is better? Because in order to do a new deal with Canada on NAFTA, you've got to have Mexico agreeing to it. I mean, could that be it?
Look, I'm not in a position to try and direct the trade negotiations of the government of Canada. All I say is that this is a vitally important relationship that we have between Canada and the United States. And, look, when I was in office with President Bush, with President Obama, from time to time we had disagreements on issues. With President Obama, we disagreed on the Keystone Pipeline. Ultimately, President Trump made a great decision on that. But, the important thing is...
You stood tall on that. You were strong on that. You got a lot of pushback from the Obama team. I remember that.
Well, look, and that's fair enough. But what we did do, what Canadian presidents and prime ministers, American presidents have done in the past, is that when we've had those disagreements, we keep those disagreements isolated to the issues we're disagreeing with, because on other things, international issues of security, of frankly economic relationships and trade, of democracy and values, we're on the same page. We're the closest partners in the world, and you don't want to see a dispute over one particular issue poison everything.
Mr. Prime Minister, you were among the leadership that led the charge against pushing Russia out of the G8. Is that right? I
was. Look, I diplomatically disagree with the president on this. I don't think that could be more the wrong direction. The fact of the matter is this: I watched two American presidents, very different people with very different agendas, President Bush, President Obama. I watched them try and make a strategic partner of Vladimir Putin. And they couldn't. And the reason they couldn't is because Vladimir Putin does not want to be a strategic partner of the United States and the West. He is determined, right to his core, to be a strategic opponent. The purpose of the G7, in my mind, is to bring together the most important Western allies in the world, the big economies who share strategic interests, who share basic questions of value. Vladimir Putin is in none of those categories. And in fact, the reason I pushed, even before his invasion of Crimea, the reason I pushed for his expulsion was that, frankly, he inhibited open dialogue around the table among allies, because you simply couldn't trust anything he said or anything he did. This is a man, let's be frank, he's a very impressive guy in many ways, but this is a man who kills his political opponents. There's no place around an allied table for somebody like that.
My thanks to former Prime Minister Stephen Harper.